Good morning, students. We are reading from your Vistas test book, chapter number 5. Should Wizard Hit Mommy by John Updike. Yesterday we read that how Jack narrates a story to his daughter Jo for evenings and for Saturday naps. But then this custom of narrating a story is altogether futile because Jo has turned 4 and is not ready to sleep. But then he questions her that what story she would like to hear of what creature. So Jo says that she wants to hear the story of a skunk, and this skunk she might have learned about the creature skunk in her nursery school. So let's read the story. He was pleased with this moment. He was telling her something true, something she must know, and had no wish to hurry on. So, when Jack realized that Jo is getting anxious, he was enjoying this, and he was enjoying that some new idea has come up to his mind, some new creative imagination is there regarding the story, and he was enjoying every minute of this storytelling, and he was not in a hurry to do with the story. But downstairs, a chair scraped. Scrape means to move, the sound by rubbing. And he realized he must get down to help Claire paint the living room woodwork. Woodwork means things made of wood. So, when he was narrating a story, he heard the sound coming from downstairs, some chair being moved, and he realized that he should go and help his wife, Claire, who was into painting the furniture. Well, he walked along very sadly and came to a very big tree, and in the tip top of the tree was an enormous wise old owl. So now Jack continues with the story, and he talks that how Roger Skunk was very sad because the creatures ran away from him and nobody played with him. So the owl said, "What? He goes to the owl to find a solution to the problem." And where does the owl live? Owl lives in a tip top of a tree. Tip top means thin pointed end of the top of a tree, and this owl is what? This owl is a huge one, immense, enormous size. Good. Now, who is saying this good? This good? Jo is saying, because she is enjoying the story, and moreover, she knows the story very well. The basic line of the story she knows. "Mr. Owl," Roger Skunk said, "all the other little animals run away from me because I smell so bad." "So you do," the owl said. "Very, very bad." "What can I do?" Roger Skunk said, and he cried very hard. So Roger Skunk goes to Owl and he says that how, because of his awful smell, the other creatures run away from him. So Owl said, "Yes, you really smell bad." So Roger Skunk wants to know about the solution to the problem, and he started crying very hard. The wizard, Jo shouted and sat right up, and a little golden book spilled from the bed. Now this girl, Jo, she knows the basic tale, the outline of the story. So she started shouting that the skunk should go to wizard. And when she's shouting, she's getting so excited that rather than the idea of the storytelling was that she should sleep. But then she shouts and she sits on the bed. And when she sits on the bed, the little golden book that was there on her lap or on the bed, it fell down. No, Joe, Daddy's telling the story. Do you want to tell Daddy the story? Now Jack got annoyed. He get annoyed because the story time and again it was she was interfering, or she was interrupting. So he says that do you wish me to narrate a story, or you desire to narrate a story to your daddy? "No, me." So she instructs that no, she denies that no, I'm not going to narrate. In fact, you will narrate story to me. "Then lie down and be sleepy." So the idea of storytelling was that the girl should sleep. So he instructs that go to lie down on your bed and try to sleep. Her her head relapsed. Relapse means went back in the previous condition. That is, she places her head onto the pillow and she said, "Out of your head." So she instructs the father that you continue with the story. Well, the owl thought and thought. At last he said, "Why don't you go to see the wizard?" "Daddy, what? Are magic spells real?" So Owl thinks about Roger Skunk's problem, and Owl instruct Roger Skunk to go to wizard. And before the father could continue with the story, the little girl again has questions. She is curious to know certain things, so she interrupts the story narration and questions father regarding whether the magic spells are real or not. This was a new phase, just this last month, a reality phase. When he told her spiders when he told her spiders eat bugs, she turned to her mother and asked, "Do they really?" And when Clara told her God was in the sky and all around them, she turned to her father and insisted, with a sly yet eager smile, "Is he really?" Sly means cunning. So, this is the new because Jack realizes that Joe is no longer a small girl, and she does not believe her parents blindly as she used to do when she was 2, but now she's 4. So she's curious and inquisitive about many things. So she wants to know. When the father says spiders eat bugs, she wants to confirm from the mother whether what the father is saying is true or not. And when the mother said God is everywhere and around, then she wants to confirm the same from the father. So this is a reality phase, and she questions father, "Are magic spells real?" "They are real in stories," Jack answered curtly. Briefly, he answers that yes, when it comes to magic spells in stories, they are real. She had made him miss a beat in the narrative. The owl said, "Go through the dark woods, under the apple trees, into the swamp, over the creek." "What's a creek?" So now, um, Joe is getting curious, and time and again she's putting questions to the father. And so the father, the narration of the storytelling is the enjoyment of storytelling is altogether spoiled. So he answers very briefly to daughter that the magic spells are real in stories. Now Jack continues with the story, and he announces that how Owl says that Roger Skunk needs to go to the dark woods, that is forest, and under the apple tree into the swamp. Swamp means muddy area, marsh, bog, over the creek. So before the father could continue with the story, Joe again comes up with the question, "What's a creek?" She wants to know what is a creek. "A little river." So when Joe questions father what is a creek, father announces that creek is a little river. And then he resumes the story. "Over the creek and there will be the wizard's house." And that's the way Roger Skunk went, and pretty soon he came to a little white house and he rapped on the door. So father continues the story that how Owl instructs Roger Skunk to go to the wizard, and he asks that over the creek the wizard's house you can see, and wizard's house is what? Here it is a white house, and you can rap on the door. Jack rapped on the windowsill, and under the covers Joe's tall figure clenched in an infantile thrill. So now Jack is giving special effects to the story so that it becomes altogether interesting for the little girl. So he's doing what? He's making voice modulations, he's doing certain things, gestures and all that can add to the story, and Joe is all involved with this storytelling. So when Roger Skunk's rap on the door of the White House to meet a wizard, Jack is rapping on the windowsill, and he sees and notices that how Joe was getting excited and she was enjoying. She was all engrossed in the storytelling and she was enjoying. This enjoyment can be felt as she's moving her hands or the body under the covers, and the thrill was there. And then a tiny little old man came out with a long white beard and a pointed blue hat and said, so now Joe gives us the Jack gives us the description of the wizard. He says that he was a tiny little man, old man, and he was having a white beard and he was wearing a pointed blue hat, and said, ah, wash this, what a wand, you smell awful. So wizard comes out and he notices that there is some creature and he says, you smell awful. The wizard's voice was one of Jack's own favorite effects. He did it by scrunching up his face and somehow whining through his eyes, which felt for the interval roomy. He felt being an old man suited him. Now when he's narrating the story, Jack is narrating the story, he's introducing lot of effects with his voice also and face expression. He scrunches up his face. Scrunch means to squeeze, to twist the face, and somehow whining through his eyes. And he whined through his eyes. Whine means in a complaining and annoying manner. The gestures were of complaining manner through his eyes to make the role of the wizard effective. And his eyes were roomy. He felt being an old man suited him, so he felt that the role of an old man suited him. So when he's announcing, when he's narrating the story, he's making all these modulations in voice, in face, so as to make the story interesting. I know it, Roger Skunk said, and all the little animals ran away from me. The enormous wise owl said, you could help me. So Roger Skunk, when the wizard says that you smell awful, he says, yes, I know. And the owl said that you can help me with my problem. Ah, well, maybe. Come on in. Don't get too close. Now, inside Joe, there were all these magic things all jumbled together in a big dusty heap because the wizard did not have any cleaning lady. Now, the father is giving the description of the house, also wizard's house, and he says that the wizard's house magic things were not placed neatly and it were in a heap, and that there was an absence of the cleaning lady. And it also tells us the importance of the women in the house. So all these things in the wizard's house, they are kept at sixes and sevens that add mystery to the magic world. So he opens the door, wizard opens the door and he says that you do not come close to me. And this all things are jumbled and in a heap because he does not have a cleaning lady. Why? Why? Because he was a wizard and a very old man. So he does not have cleaning lady because he was wizard, and moreover he was old. Will he die? No, wizards don't die. Now, when father announces that wizard is an old man, the first thing that comes to Joe's mind is the old people die. So she questions, will the old person, will the wizard die? So father tells that wizards don't die. Well, he rummaged around and found an old stick called a magic wand and asked Roger Skunk what he wanted to smell like. Roger thought and said, roses. So wizard looks. Rummage means search. He searches because this whole his whole house is the things have been stacked together. They are in a heap. So he's searching his magic wand and he searches one and finds the magic stick, and he questions Roger Skunk what smell he would like to have, and Roger Skunk announces he wants roses, a smell of a rose. Yes, good, Joe said smugly. Now Joe was very relieved, satisfied that yes, roses smells would be good. Why? Because for her age, it is very important to have kids, friends around and enjoy playing. So this idea that Roger Skunk does not have anybody to play with him, so she was sad about it. So she was happy when Skunk would be changed into the smell of the roses. He might have one friends also. Jack fixed her with a trance-like gaze and chanted in the wizard's elderly, irritable voice. So Jack fixes her sight with a trance-like gaze, and he chants the magical words. And when he's chanting, he's again making a modulation, a voice modulation, and like an old irritable voice, he announces the chant. And what's the chant? Abracadabra, hocus pocus, Roger Skunk, how do you do? Roses, posies, pull an ear, Roger Skunk, you never fear, bingo. So Visit makes this chant, and he changes with this magic wand the smell of Roger Skunk, and now the smell of Roger Skunk is no more awful, it has turned to roses.